Hello, podcasters, and welcome once again to Sexplosion. So, Hippy and I had a great conversation about swinging. We literally covered just the tip of the swinging iceberg. So, today we're going to be going much, much deeper into swinging. So, for example, we're going to talk about the dynamic between two couples, which is quite complex, also ways to work through those and possible issues, and also how to read the room. Now, if you are new to Sexplosion, my name is Caroline Chenier from CarolineChenierCoaching.com. And I'm your coach, and Steve as well, on all things intimacy, relationship, sex, and super consciousness. So, welcome back, Hippy.
Ah, you're right
then. Now, I've got experience on swinging, but Hippy has much, much more than me in this area. And we would love for you to share this with us. So please fire away on the deeper side of swinging.
Well, yeah, the deep side. I mean, this is a massive subject. I mean, you've hit on the fact that we're back for part two, because we only just started to touch the subject. There's so much. There's so many different ways of swinging. Everyone has their own thing that they want. What they enjoy. This because it's not just all about people getting together and having penetrative sex. Some people like to have what they call soft swing, where there's no penetration in that way, but you can enjoy someone else's body. You can be naked, you can kiss. You have your own limits. Everyone has their limit of where they say, I would not feel comfortable beyond this. But up until there, green light, I'm bang up for it.
That's interesting. That is really interesting, because I remember at a swinging party that I was at once, one woman didn't want her husband to have penetrative sex. And I thought, what's the point in coming swinging if you can't bear to see husband doing that? And you've just answered the question.
Yeah.
That's the reason why, because she just is quite happy for him to kiss, cuddle, stroke, whatever, play, but not that.
Yeah. And you have to work to wherever you or your partner's safe limit is. You don't allow your partner to push you beyond that. If you've got a red line and you say, I'm not going beyond that, your partner has to respect that. There's no that should never be a question.
I've just remembered the very, very first time, and the only time really that I did it. I remember I said, no, you're not allowed to have penetrative sex. They could do everything else to each other,
Yeah.
but they weren't allowed to do that. And they said, oh, really? Couldn't we not? And I said, no, can't do it. So you're right. I didn't want them to do that, but I was very happy to watch everything else, because I was the only one with my clothes still on.
Yeah.
I was like directing, right, do this, do that. I was actually being quite dominant with the two of them, and they were like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with the sub-dom play in that sort of situation is you take the dom takes responsibility away from everyone else and gives the instruction. But the people, the ultimately the subs always got the full control, because they can stop, they can say no, they can put the safe word in place. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic when you swing with that kind of dynamic. Yeah, I mean, yours came along quite organically, didn't it?
It did. It did.
But definitely with people with more experience in the sub dom kind of dynamic, it can work, because you can push your sub as well as yourself. This is the thing. People always think it's about pushing the sub and rah rah rah, but it's also the dom pushing themselves. How do I work in this dynamic? It's that is something that comes up in swinging as well, when you've got the kind of power play thing going on with people, like that sort of dynamic.
So is there much more about this dynamic? So really it's about respecting each other when it comes to what they want.
Yeah, always. I mean, at the end of the day, sex is about pleasure. So if you know what you will and won't enjoy, well, you might learn as you go. And the thing is, you can put something in place, and you could say, like you did, no penetrative sex, but you might find that if you'd have done that again, the next time you might have been, actually, do you know what? I'm comfortable now. The healthy way to keep tabs on where people are at is you discuss it a lot. It's all about communication.
Always.
Healthy swinging experience, the communication has to be much higher than anything you've ever experienced before. But that's what builds your intimacy within your relationship. It builds trust in the relationship. That heightened communication and honesty and trust in your partner as well. If you say that's my limit and your partner works within those limits, it gives you trust and confidence in that person. And check back regularly, keep checking back, because things are fluid and some ideas might stay sat, but it's never a trade. One partner might say, I don't want you having penetrative sex, but the other one says, well, I'm happy for you to. Well, cool, play that dynamic. It's not a trade. It's not about, well, I want to and you get to, so I should. That's not the deal. It's working with more than one person to build pleasure for everyone involved. And this is where the dynamic with two couples gets a little bit more complex, because now you've got you as a couple and you've got another couple, which is two individuals and their agreements. It's almost like there's a third one in the room with their agreements. So there has to be high communication between everyone in the room and a lot of honesty. And I always recommend that people meet for a social if they're
You have to, really, don't you?
even in a club. But what you can do is have a little sign with your partner. So say you end up talking. So first time I went to a club, within 5-10 minutes, there was another couple there talking at us, and it was very respectful. He spoke to me as the male, and she spoke to her as the females, and whatever. But what I did learn then was we needed a code language to say whether we were happy with this couple.
Yes, that is important.
So if say you agree to meet this other couple in a public place at a pub, say, you could say, look, if you start tapping the beer mat on its edge, that means you're not interested. Something
What a good idea.
that you both are on the same page constantly throughout the conversation. So you might be thinking, oh yeah, I'm bang up for it, but your partner's going, no, I'm not feeling this one. Then to back out of the conversation and put the back, doesn't become awkward at any point. This again comes from having amazing communication with your partner and trust, that because you might be like, oh, I really want to do this with them, but if they're saying no, they're
Got to
saying
respect it. Yeah.
you just have to let go and go, right, that's it, that's the end of that one.
And obviously the communication you're talking about will avoid, by communicating like that, you'll avoid the jealousy, right? And of
Yeah,
course, by backing down as well when the person doesn't want to do it, that shows, yeah,
yeah,
I'm with you. I'm not with anybody else.
yeah, and like jealousy, yeah, is one thing you've got to realize with swinging is your partner is going to be, say it's the first time you're going into it, your partner's going to be having an experience that they haven't had before, same as you are, and they are going to be excited. They are going to enjoy it in ways that you're not used to, because it's a dynamic you've never provided, because you can't. So it's going to trigger insecurities and jealousies of like, why is my partner, how is this? And it's the whole setting, and it's the setting you're sharing together, and you have to keep that in mind to keep the insecurities and the jealousy at bay. It's
You've
yes.
got to open your mind, right? You've got to just open your mind and be aware that your partner is something they've wanted to do for a long time. And it's a question of just letting go, isn't it? Again,
Yeah,
becoming present, isn't it? Just forget about the past, forget about the future. Just think about right now and enjoy the fact that your husband or your partner or your wife is actually having a really nice moment. And the fact is, it's making that partner happy. So they'll be happier at home because they've had an experience they've really wanted with you.
yeah,
They've not done it on their own. They've not gone, they've done it with you.
it's
And I
you.
think that's really
Yeah,
important.
yeah, and jealousy is a thing that comes up in swinging, especially early on. I think you learn to understand it more as the more that you go on.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, if you come away and you say, at that point when you did such and such to your partner, not in an accusatory way, but at the point when this happened, I felt insecure.
Right. That is so good.
That's not an attack at your partner. That's I felt. And at that point, your partner can go, "All right, well, in future, how could we work through this?" And you communicate for the next time. You communicate your way out of every feeling, and you're sharing it together, and intimacy goes through the roof. You know, and yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have a worry that, oh, what if they fall in love with the other person? Well, people can fall in love at work or in a shop. Do you know?
Look, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? And if they do,
it doesn't make it any more risky. You're enjoying that moment and you're enjoying it together.
right, at work, you're not there, right?
Yeah.
And
But then
so what I'd say about that is that they're not worth being with if they're going off. Do you know what I mean? If that, I've always said,
yeah,
I've
if someone
always said,
go off with someone else, you've not lost anything.
right. If they're going to go off, they're going to go off. Why do you want to be with someone who actually doesn't respect and want to be with you? There's no point, is there? And
Yeah.
if, you're quite right, it can happen. It can happen at a club. It could happen. I'm talking about tennis club, football club, whatever club. It can always happen, whether it's swinging or not.
Yeah.
And I just think we all have to just let go of our insecurities. I know it might be easy for me to say, but like you say, with the communication and making, whenever people are jealous, I always think it's the partner, the other one, not the one who's jealous, but yeah, okay, a bit with the one that's jealous, but the other one hasn't made them feel like they're the number one. That's why they're a bit jealous. That's what I've always thought. If they had made their partner feel like they are the best thing since sliced bread in their life, they're never going to get jealous, are they? No matter how much someone flirts with them. I actually quite like it when someone flirts with Greg because I know he's mine and he's not going to be interested, but he does half the time he's completely oblivious.
Yeah.
That was switched off in him a long time ago by his mother.
Well, most men are oblivious when women are flirting. We're terrible with it.
Oh, so listen, one of the other things we're going to talk about here was also about reading the room. I found that quite interesting when you said that, when we said we were going to go, what we're going to go through for this particular podcast,
Yeah.
how to read the room. Let's start with that one as well.
Like I said, that starts right at the first meeting.
Right.
It's been observant, watching how your partner's reacting and engaging in conversation, watching how both of the other partners are reacting, engaging in conversation. I mean, one thing I've found as a man when meeting couples is sometimes because they're looking for a unicorn, both of them will hone right in on the woman.
But then what do you mean by unicorn? You
They're,
mean
they're
a single person?
a bisexual woman to play with.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Okay. That's
And
a unicorn.
yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, and yeah,
Well, I've
because
been out of it for a
they're like
while.
unicorns, they're hard to find, but what I've had then is my partner being, hang on, they're both focused on me and they're excluding my partner, and that's the red flag to them.
Right.
Because at that point, you know that if you do play with them in that situation, I'm going to be sat out. I'm just going to be watching them live out their fantasy with a bisexual woman. Whereas if that's the dynamic that you want to play, then
Yeah,
you know,
that's true. That's true. Because when I was married, my husband, a couple that we knew, every single Friday, her mate would come over and they called it a double liquor. They used to come and they used to play in front of him and then give him a double liquor, both of
yeah,
them together, every single Friday. And
yeah,
that was how it was. The two women were quite happy to that. He was watching. And quite often I've actually experienced where the men do just love watching the women play together.
yeah. I mean, I've had it with couples as well, where the other man doesn't wants to be present and involved in that way, but he wants to watch a couple play
Just
with his,
watch. Yeah.
and that's fine. And so, some women want to watch, their man involved, and obviously there's the bisexual elements can work both ways. It depends on everyone's. And this is what I mean by reading the room, is working out who wants what, who's bi, who's looking for what play, and it comes about through communication. And let's face it, these days most people meet online for these sort of things.
So all that's
You
discussed. It's all
discuss
discussed
something online.
text wise, right?
Yeah, yeah. You could do things like, say you've met this couple once and you think you might want it to go meet up again in the future, but you're in work all week, whatever. In that week, start a WhatsApp group between the four of you, so all four are communicating openly and honesty in front of each other as individuals, because you can't read a couple as a couple. They're two individuals, and yeah, again, it's communication, but when it works, oh my god, it works well. And but it's all about, but like I said in the last one, you've got to be honest with yourself first, and then you can be honest with your partner,
Right. And you mean by that, you mean just to recap on that from the last one, is actually sitting down and understanding what you like and what you don't like in yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, being honest
Sexually.
about it. And if your partner says, well, I would like to do this, and inside you're going, I'm not sure, you need to learn to be honest with that feeling and say,
And
I'm not
say it.
sure. It's not confrontation, even though it can feel like confrontation to be being honest. It's called being honest. And just being open in that way, because then your partner can help you explore that. And you might learn a lot about yourself. Well, I think we all do. I mean, this one thing, you will learn a lot about yourself if you get into this lifestyle. It's a lot to learn, and it's great. It's exciting.
Yeah, it really is exciting. I mean, just from the experience I've had, excuse me, just from the experience I've had over a period of, God knows, it must have been about 4 years in total. The biggest thing I noticed was when you don't want to, no one's ever going to force you. That's a massive respect that I, in that world that I experience, is that nobody will ever make you feel bad for not wanting to, and they're quite happy to serve if they want to, and you're willing to receive.
Yeah, but if you were going to call it a community, within the community, the respect for boundaries is amazing, unbelievable. It surprised me how, because people going into a situation and saying, what are your limits? Can I do, it's all consent, asking where the consent lies, and it's communicated. It's a rule that all of my experience in the clubs and parties and whatever have been so respectful of boundaries, completely respectful of boundaries. Yeah, play safe.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, anyway, at the moment, I'm not interested in that at all. See, I wanted to have these experiences to have an opinion. I wanted to have an opinion and explore myself, explore this underworld that nobody really talks about, you see. And he's not done that, because I told you before, at the age of whatever, his mum said, you flirted, don't you dare do that. That was it. Switched off everything to do with sex after that. It's a shame for him. He's learning now. He's like, since he's been with me, he's come out a lot, but
I imagine.
yeah. Don't think he knew anything quite like it. I remember when I met him, I wanted to, my cousins knew how I was, and I was really worried they think I'd eat him alive, which I did.
Yeah, fair. See, I wouldn't be worried about that. I'd be encouraging it. So
Yeah, exactly. It should be encouraged. It really should be encouraged. And when I say it should be encouraged, I think what should be encouraged is an experience that you want. You can't go to your grave and not have experienced what you wanted sexually. See, everybody, okay, we all have blockages, but there are many people that will go beyond, and they'll go backpacking by themselves, or they'll go and they'll jump out of a plane, or they'll go and do bungee jumping, or they'll go and do whatever it is they wanted to do. But when it comes to sexual things that people want to do, they just don't do it. And they end up being unfulfilled sexually all their lives. And I personally think that's just so unfair to do that to yourself. See, I feel like I've done everything I wanted to do. I've got, I can go to my grave with no regrets, because I really experienced everything I wanted to experience.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think a lot of that though just comes back to like the podcast we did on conditioning.
Yeah.
Where people go, oh no, that's dirty. Oh no, that's wrong. And it's a conditioned state. It's something that people are accepting because it was input put in by others, by society or religion or whatever. And breaking free of that, but that honesty of, what do I want? What do I like? What do I enjoy? What do I want to try? That's the honesty that I keep saying about, the honesty with self.
Yeah. Because you see, when you finally stop telling yourself, like a woman I'm talking about here, oh, that's tarty. No, it's not tarty. It's an experience, sexual experience. Our bodies are so sensitive and so out there. All we do is put this like cloak over us and say, no, just take the cloak off. Just take that cloak off. Nothing is bad unless it's unconsented. Then it's not good. And if it's underage, obviously. Obviously.
Yeah, that's consent. Those children can't get consent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, consent. So yeah, and I just hope people who are listening to this podcast or watching this podcast actually let go and think, maybe I could try that. But then they want to know where. So you said last time, let's just repeat again for those people who perhaps didn't see the part one and just listening to part two for the first time. Let's just help them to discover where to go to just get a taste of it. And remember everyone out there, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. So you can go and have an experience of just watching, see how everybody does it, enjoy watching, and maybe next time perhaps dabble. But people mustn't be scared that they have to do stuff. They don't.
No, I mean, if you go to a club, you generally find there's a social area, which is like a closed area. Might not be a lot of clothes, but
Yeah.
it's a social closed area, and it's a no play area. So you can go to a club for the first time and never leave that area, not go into any playrooms, into any dungeons, anything, and just meet people and chat with other people that are more experienced, or maybe meet another couple that's got no experience also, and just get to know people and hear their ideas, hear the things that they say. There's no obligation to do anything.
Anything. And
Yeah,
that's probably actually a really good way to introduce. So if like, for example, if the man, like all these men want to do swinging and their wives, well, either they've not discussed it with their wives or they've said it wrong and the wife said no. It'd be that what you're saying about this no playroom is probably a really, really good way of just introducing it, wouldn't you say?
yeah, definitely. I mean,
Perfect, isn't it? What you just said.
to get to that point, you have to be having the conversation.
That's right.
I think, well, I'm going to speak as a man for men. If you've always had a fantasy of having a threesome, but you don't enjoy a lot of foreplay in your sex, you're not going to do well.
Ah.
You can't. It's an experience to be savoured and enjoyed, and it's about giving and receiving pleasure. And if your idea of foreplay is, oh yeah, I think she's wet enough now, and then using her as a wet wank, you're barking up the wrong tree. You've got a lot to learn before you get there, and it's not going to work in your favour. That one, it's a bit of a rough message maybe, but if you're a selfish lover, it's not going to go well.
No, no. And also you need to get that intimacy back first with your partner before even thinking about that. So that's a really good point, isn't it? You've got to build that intimacy, which is what I do, help you build the intimacy first. In fact, I think that would be a good podcast for us to do, actually, is building the intimacy from a man's point of view. I've done it millions of times on my videos, right? But that's from my point of view. And I think your view is going to be very valuable. So that's one I'm going to write down for my list, because the menopause one, we for the audience, we were talking about menopause, and many men have a problem because their wives don't want to have any sex when they're in the menopause, and that is where you have got the trick on what to do. So we're going to do a video on that as well. Okay, cool. Right. So anything else before we finish this? Because as usual, time has just flown by.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do part three because we're still like on the edges of it.
Okay, so we are going to do a
There's
part
so many
three.
dynamics and so many different things to go through, and a lot of it is about trying to encourage people to find the communication and honesty. And I've not heard yet of many couples that get into swinging who don't talk during sex, who don't explore fantasies when they play. Is because it comes from communication, and if you're having sex in silence in the dark with the lights out, you're nowhere near ready. It might be an idea that you've got, but there's a long path to build up to that. And I think for most people, once they start on a path towards this, it will build their relationship because it builds intimacy, honesty, and trust.
Yeah.
Also exciting because you get it right, it's really exciting and a lot of fun, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, I think that's going to be very, very important, because all those men that come to me who have no sex in their lives, that is the first point of call.
Yeah.
They can think about whatever they want. If they don't have that intimacy together and that connection with their partner, they can't do anything. You don't have what you're saying, trust and anything like
Just
that.
for anyone listening, that's when we mention intimacy, we're not talking about sex.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a long way before sex. Sex is sexual intimacy. This is like true intimacy, the foundation.
The proper thing.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Thank you so, so much. Now, if people want to contact you, Hippy,
yeah.
where can they go? I know you're on TikTok.
But at the moment, it's just TikTok. Yeah,
Okay, so your handle is at Steve Hippy.
yeah.
And what would you like people to do?
If anyone's got any questions, just find me on there and send me a direct message. In the future, I will have my email back up and running. The website's 4 million miles away still. But yeah, for the moment, it's just TikTok. And if anyone's got questions or they want advice, just get in touch on there and we can take it from there, really.
Okay, cool. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So there we have it, folks. Another excellent, exciting, and informative conversation with Hippy. Now, if you want to learn a bit more about me, go to linktree/Caroline Chenier for all my links in one place. Next month, we're going to be talking about sex and open relationships, which you can call also ethical non-monogamy, again with Hippy. So come back right here for more unscripted, interesting conversations. Thank you so much, Hippy, for sharing your experience and knowledge.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you all again for taking the time to tune in. See you next month. To your success, I'm out.